Hello friends, this is Deepa Moghe welcoming you to the 6th English episode of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, a series of film appreciations originally presented in Konkani by Jnanesh Moghe. Today we shall critically appreciate the 2014 Oscar award-winning film Birdman, directed by Alessandro Inarritu. Somebody sets the drums, and the film begins with the sounds of percussive drumming. We see a superpower landing on Earth, and in the very next shot, the question in the mind of the protagonist of the film becomes audible. How did we end up here? Thereby revealing the tragedy of his existence. He goes ahead to say, we don't belong in this shithole. The superego in each one of us must have at some point of time uttered these words. We don't belong in this shithole. But we still continue living our lives here, confronting our own struggles. The protagonist of the film, Regan, is living a similar destiny. Regan is a celebrated actor, once famous for his superhero role of Birdman in major commercial blockbusters. But he has stopped playing this role long time back and has also refused Birdman 4. He is now preparing to make a comeback to theatre with a desire to gain recognition as a serious actor. He is in the process of producing and directing a theatrical adaptation of Raymond Carver's short story, What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, which he himself has written. Though Regan has stopped playing Birdman long back, Birdman's existence still hovers over his entire being. He is constantly battling an inner conflict with this alter ego of his, striving very hard to prove his independent existence, his independent being. The entire structure, the form of this film is unique. The theme of the play presented on stage and Regan's own personal life is so synonymous that one cannot actually differentiate the point where Regan's personal experience ends and the action of his character in the play begins. The duration, the real time of the film is 2 hours, whereas the real time, the happenings in the film take place over a period of 5 days. The unique treatment of the film, which seems uncut, unedited, making the film appear as a single continuous shot, provides an altogether different dimension to the 5 days happenings in the film, thus molding the cinematic approach into a theatrical construct. The director very logically manipulates time. He manages to smoothly move from one scene to another without using any conventional video transitions. Towards the beginning of the film, Regan's co-star in the play is injured. As Regan suggests names of a few good actors who could replace him, he is told that all these good actors are busy doing some or the other superhero movie now. Woody Harrelson is doing Hunger Games. Michael Fassbender is doing a prequel to the X-Men prequel. When he is told that Jeremy Renner, who was nominated for an Oscar award for his performance in Hurt Locker, is doing an Avenger now, he very disappointedly says, they put him in a cape too. Regan's struggle is to free himself from the clutches of Hollywood. But it is always difficult to achieve one's desires. In the immediate next scene, we see Regan seated in the green room in front of the mirror. He takes off his wig and is observing himself. We are able to see the words written on a piece of paper stuck on the mirror. A thing is a thing, not what is said of that thing. Slowly, as Regan's eyes move to the flowers arranged in the vase kept on the side, he notices that those are not the fragrant flowers that he had asked for. He finds a chit in the flowers which says, they didn't have whatever you wanted. Furious, he hurls the vase away. The superhero existing in him cannot accept, cannot tolerate such compromises. Regan is constantly fighting his alter ego. So also he is in a continual clash with his co-star Mike. Mike is an actor who demands reality on stage. He requires everything real on stage. He cannot stand his gin being replaced by water. He even goes to the extent of demanding real sex during one of the romantic scenes on stage. For him, stage is the reality of life. He says, I pretend just about every place else, but not out there. Except for Regan, everyone else feels that he's living in the 90s, ignorant about the present. His daughter, who is working as his assistant, is of the opinion that becoming viral is the key to success in today's times. She says to him, You don't exist.
You hate bloggers, you mock Twitter, you don't even have a Facebook page. You're the one who doesn't exist. You're doing this because you're scared to death, like the rest of us, that you don't matter. And you know what? You're right. You don't. It's not important, okay? You're not important. Get used to it.
Something that would stand true for everyone in today's world. She tells him, You are not important. Get used to it. It looks like Regan is playing his own life on stage. What's wrong with me? Why do I always have to beg people to love me? These dialogues in the play underline the tragedy of his life.
I don't exist. I'm not even here. None of this even matters. I don't exist. I don't exist.
These are actually Regan's own feelings that he conveys through this on-stage character. In fact, Regan is well aware about the trivia of the 90s. He's not really satisfied with his earnings as a Birdman. Though he is trying his best to connect to the present, he's confused about how to do it. In one of the scenes, the director very effectively exposes the haplessness of the superhero in real-life circumstances. The naked truth of the existence of this man, who nurtures the superego of Birdman, is revealed when he is ripped off his superhero armor and is forced to make his way through the surrounding crowd. The life of the character on stage, his real life, the audience, his own self, all of it at one point amalgamate, blurring the lines in between. And keeping in with the idea of show must go on, the audience too acknowledge and mark the tragedy of the protagonist with a thundering applause.
This play kind of starting to feel like a miniature, deformed version of myself that just keeps following me around and like hitting me in the balls with like a tiny little hammer.
In the film, there is this character of a rather cold and staunch theatre critic who keeps a very serious approach towards the art of theatre. She strongly feels that allowing a person like Regan, who has been doing non-substantial superhero roles like Birdman in popular commercial films, to now perform on stage is to bring disgrace to the real and serious art of theatre. She says to him,
I hate you and everyone you represent. Entitled, selfish, spoiled children. Blissfully untrained, unversed, and unprepared to even attempt real art. Handing each other awards for cartoons and pornography.
She's stubbornly insistent about not letting anybody to make it on stage and prove oneself without her approval. After his encounter with this critic, while on his way back, the lines from Shakespeare's Macbeth come to follow Regan.
It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Drunk and desperate, he passes out on the stoop. Next morning, the Birdman voice is back again to wake him up.
Give the people what they want. Some good old-fashioned apocalyptic porn. Birdman, the Phoenix Rises. Pimple-faced gamers screaming in their pants. 1 billion worldwide, guaranteed. You were larger than life, man. You save people from their boring, miserable lives. You make them jump, laugh, shit their pants.
He seems to be revealing the very guiding principle of popular commercial cinema. Regan no more cares for this voice and goes ahead with his performance on stage. In the play, his character commits suicide by aiming a pistol at himself at the end. Regan uses a real pistol during this scene. But he doesn't die. The bullet hits his nose and he is hospitalized. His nose is replaced with a new one, but now he is no more able to smell the fragrant flowers that his daughter brings for him.
Are you laughing?
Yeah.
What's so funny?
I can't smell them.
In the meantime, the play is a huge success and has received excellent review. But Regan is unaffected. Neither the flowers nor the review interest him now. He is left with no wanting. With his face covered in a mask of bandages, he now resembles Birdman, distorted, misshaped version of Birdman. When his daughter visits him in the hospital, sits next to him and rests her head on his chest, at that instant, one can feel Regan experiencing the moment of true love that he had longed for all these years. The well-composed frame of the father-daughter duo in that beautiful light brims one's heart with emotions. Regan cannot bear to see himself in that mask of bandages, which makes him look like Birdman. He removes the bandages, only to realize the most unfortunate thing. He no more is the same old Regan. This new nose has changed his entire identity, his entire being.
Fuck you.
While observing himself in the mirror, he notices Birdman seated on the toilet seat. This inner Birdman voice, with whom he was in a duel for all this time, seems hopeless now. We hear the sound of the flush and Birdman disappears. Regan bids goodbye to Birdman and heads to the window. Looking at the free-flying birds up in the sky, he opens the window and climbs out onto the ledge. When his daughter is back in the room, she finds Regan missing. She rushes to the window, searching for the ground below. Then slowly looking up into the sky, she breaks into a smile. The film ends here. The smile on her face is the greatest tribute to Regan. It is an indication of Regan's fulfillment of his desire to soar high up in the sky above everybody else. The review printed in the news is titled, "The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance." In the beginning, these words show up on the screen along with Birdman as the title of the film. The review says,
Thompson has unwittingly given birth to a new form which can only be described as superrealism. Blood was spilled both literally and metaphorically by artist and audience alike. Real blood. The blood that has been sorely missing from the veins of the American theater.
it is truly difficult for one to judge whether these phrases, real blood, virtue of ignorance, superrealism, which make up the review, really mean to acknowledge and appreciate Regan as an actor, or they unknowingly drag him back to his superhero image of Birdman. As one thinks, one is confronted with doubts. Had Regan wished for this? In fact, all these ideas are against the very fundamental principles of theatre. And Regan, by spilling his blood on stage, has brought ignominy to this great form of art. Regan never wished for it. In fact, he opposed superrealism in theatre. Regan has realized that this is actually his defeat. Long takes and uncut scenes make the production process of this film completely different. There was no scope left for improvisation. Every action of the characters, as well as the camera movements, were finalized during the rehearsal itself, and no changes were expected during the actual shoots. The continuity that was achieved through this kind of treatment proved to be supporting to the theatrical background of the film. The drum beats make the only prominent background music in the film. Alessandro Inarritu says that as the scenes in the film were unedited, it was important to set the rhythm for the film. The rhythm of drum beats played a very important role in helping him decide and fix the inner rhythm and the pace of the happenings in the movie. Every time the drum appears on screen, the restlessness, the disquiet in Regan's mind is effectively expressed. One may gain a deeper perception every single time one watches this movie. This film inholds several contemplative ideas and unfolds a different new layer each time. It is so thoughtfully crafted that the more one watches this movie, the more one can relate to it personally at various levels. In the last episode of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, we had enjoyed the critical appreciation of Lage Raho Munna Bhai, in which, like Birdman, the protagonist experiences illusions and hallucinations, but in no way there can be a comparison between the two films. Birdman approaches real-life issues with sincere maturity and great aesthetic sense. Birdman is also a commercial success, but is a movie made without any artistic compromises, made with the sheer passion of creating a cinematic experience with high production and aesthetic values. The intention is to bring to your notice that otherwise, under the name of commercialization, most of the films here take their audiences for granted, considering them foolish. When Amitabh Bachchan was interviewed some years back, he was asked whether he would be ready to accept a meaningful movie offering him a role that would not be compatible to his on-screen image. His answer to this question was no. He had said that people preferred watching him do roles that suited his on-screen image. Maybe over the period of time, his opinion may have changed, but it remains a fact that popular commercial film stars, especially Bollywood stars, are not really willing to break their image. Ironically, it is good in a way. They don't end up in a tragedy like that of Regan's in Birdman. The 2014 Oscar Award-winning Birdman is available on Netflix. Do watch this film to know more about the interesting experiments happening in the field of cinema and to understand their great aesthetic values. In the next episode of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, we shall enjoy the critical appreciation of a Mexican film by Alfonso Cuarón, Roma. Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men, Gravity, are well known to cine lovers. Roma was awarded the Oscar Award in the foreign film category in 2018. You can watch this film on Netflix. To watch more episodes of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Vinsan Academy of Film and Media. See you next week. Goodbye till then.